All right, so now that we've set our simulator to show up at that little dot right there on the screen, that's what we're going to get to show up here in this video. So back here in Xcode, I'm going to show you the initializer here on map. Again, just to illustrate which one we're going to use. Right now, we're currently using this one, right? Coordinate region, annotation items, annotation content. Down here, two more down, we have, shows user location and our annotation items and content. Well, if I hit return, I'm not going to type all that in again. So we're just going to add this shows user location parameter into our existing one. Now, in this case, I think the order might matter. So we know it goes after the region, before the annotation items. So let me get rid of this autocomplete. And again, if you really wanted to be super safe, you could type everything in again and delete the parameters you're not using. Up to you how you want to do that. So I'm going to put this shows user location right there after region. Make sure we have a comma after our Boolean, which we'll say is true because we do want to show user location. Do a Command B, just make sure I did that right. It likes it. Cool. Again, I usually try to avoid that. I like to write out the initializer, but that one was super long, so I didn't want to do that one. But you see, we have a coordinate region, shows user location equal to true, and annotation items are the same. So that's all we had to do to our map to show the user location. Well, at least on the map. We got to do a lot more with core location, right? Because if I run this, you'll see nothing is different. Yep, our app looks the same, except you now see the error here, right? Core location manager for MK core location provider did fail with error. Basically, we're not getting our location yet is essentially what that's saying. So let's stop this and start working with that. So minimize that there. Into our views, let's go to our location map view model because this is where the magic is going to happen. So the first thing I'm going to need is a device location manager. And I'm specifying device because, we already have a location manager. We already have the concept of location in our app, right? That's our restaurant. And I chose to call it location, not restaurant. So we want to specify that this is our device location. So we'll say var device location manager, and that is of type CL location manager, and that is in optional. And the reason it's an optional is because we're only going to create this location manager if location services are enabled. Because as you may know, you can turn off location services for your whole phone. So we got to check to make sure that's even on first. So to do that, we'll create a function here. We'll say func check if location services is enabled. Long name, but descriptive. Can't argue with that. And so what we want to do is on the class itself of CL Location Manager, not the instance of it that we're going to create here, right? Our device location manager is an instance of a CL Location Manager. There's a class function on CL Location Manager that checks for if the device even has location services enabled. So we'll do dot, you can see location services enabled. And you can see it returns a Boolean. Returns a Boolean value indicating whether location services are enabled on the device. So first, we want to make sure that is true before we do anything. And if that is true, oops, I forgot an important word, if. If CL Location Manager.location services is enabled, then we act. And what we want to do here is we want to create our instance of Device Location Manager. So there we will do Device Location Manager equals a brand new instance of CL Location Manager, and we'll initialize that. Now, we're only going to do the basics with this Device Location Manager, but I do want to show you some stuff here. So Device Location Manager, see what we got here, right? We have activity type, which this is, you could be driving, you could be running, walking. And then we have, desired accuracy, which is, we'll try that real quick, equals, say KCL location. You can see accuracy best. This is the best level of accuracy. Reduced, you can do it within a kilometer, within 100 meters, within 3 kilometers. Best for navigation, which is, if you're building a navigation specific app, right? Like Waze or something. So there's various levels of accuracy you can get, and default best, by the way, is the default. So that's what we're going to use because it's kind of the default for iOS. And because it's the default, we don't even need to have it. But I wanted to show you, some of the stuff that you can do. And I'll link to CL Location Manager documentation because there is a whole bunch of stuff that you can explore. But like I said in the intro video, we don't need all that for Dub. So this is kind of like your introduction to it, just a way for you to get your feet wet with the framework. If you would like to explore deeper, I'll link to some documentation. But we will delete that line because that is the default. We don't necessarily need that. Okay, so we have our Device Location Manager, which is a CL Location Manager. And real quick, a note on naming. We're not actually using the user location that much in our app. Yeah, we're showing it on the map, but that's pretty much it. However, if I was building an app where I was using the user location a lot and we were going to utilize a lot of this CL Location Manager, I would rename my locations to something like restaurants, establishments, eateries, something like that, because, calling them locations and dealing with our location manager, that would be confusing with, if we use the user location a lot, right? That would be confusing namespace. But because we're not using the device location all that much, this is fine. But I do want to point out that, be careful about conflicting namespaces. Okay, so this is just the first part of the check, right? Where we check to see, hey, does the device even have location services enabled overall? Then we got to check, do we have permission, right? You've seen that permission pop up, right? Dub would like to use your location. Like now we need to check for app specific permissions. So that is another function. So we'll do that right below it and we'll call it func check location authorization. And we are going to be using our device location manager to check for that. So it isn't optional. And like I said, the reason it's an optional is we don't always want to create it. Like you notice, if we don't have location services enabled, no reason to create location managers and do any unnecessary work, right? So that's why it isn't optional. So because it is an optional here, once we have that, we need to unwrap it. So we'll do guard let device location manager equal device location manager. Else, we're just going to return here. In my opinion, there's no need to, show an error to the user. Just return out of here and end it if we don't have a location manager. Because if we don't have a location manager, that means location services isn't even enabled. So we don't have to worry about, doing the rest of these checks for authorization. So now that we've unwrapped that, again, remember to make sure to use the local one, not the V1. And I know what you may be thinking if you're new, like why would you name them the same thing, right? If it causes that name confusion, like we talked about, I don't know if it was the last video or a couple videos ago where I messed up that file URL. I don't know. This is like the convention, and it's in a lot of like best practices. Sometimes I do name them differently just to avoid that altogether, but you'll see it a lot where it's named the same, even though it does cause that naming conflict. So I don't know. It's in a lot of best practices things. I don't really know the real reason, but we're going to use that, right? So this has a check on it, right? We want to check for authorization status. We want to get the current authorization status of the app. And whoops, in my explanation, I forgot this is a switch statement, right? So we're going to switch off of this here, and then Xcode will help me out here. Come on, Xcode. Yep, switch must be exhaustive, right? Because there's many different cases, as you're going to see as this fills in. Right? Bam. So we have not determined, restricted, denied, right? All the possible permissions our app could have. And we need to handle each one accordingly. So if it's not determined, that means like we don't know what permissions we have. Well, we got to request permission. So device location manager dot request. And we can say always authorization or when in use authorization. Well, we don't need to always have their location, right? We're not like a navigation app where we need it in the background. We only want it when in use, right? You should only ask for the information that you absolutely need. So when in use authorization, if we're not determined. Now, restricted, what's that? Option, click on it. You'll see the user cannot change this app status, possibly due to active restrictions such as parental controls. Okay, that makes sense. So we'll come back to this, but I'm going to go through all the cases first. So we'll just show an alert there. Denied, that means basically they said no. So again, we'll show an alert there as well, helping them, if they want to turn it back on, we'll show them how to do it. And then always authorized and when in use, we're not going to do anything because that means our app is good to go. So we're good. So what I can do here for two cases that are the same, you can put them on the same line, separated by a comma, like you see here. And then here we'll just do break, which just means exit the switch statement. So we're good. And same thing for the unknown case. Basically, this is like if a new case gets added and we haven't handled it and it's unknown, we're just going to break there. So, okay, we're getting the error saying that we need to have something happen in here, right? We can't just have a comment. So while we're here, just to get Xcode to shut up, let's create our alerts. So again, I want to show a specific alert message if it's restricted and if it's denied. And then you'll notice we're going to create another alert up here. So, right, if we have location services enabled, go ahead, do your location manager stuff. But if it's not, right, if that's false, so else, we want to do something. And that is basically show an alert, letting them know like, hey, your location services are not on the device. Nothing we can do about that. And again, tell them how to like change that. So let's create these three alerts right now, which is in our utilities alert item. Here we go. And now you're going to see the value of having this set up because like I said, there's so many alerts where all it is a message and the user hits OK. And this handles that great. So I'm going to copy this and we'll paste it once. We're probably gonna have to do this a couple times here. So let's handle the location restricted. That's the name of it. Tab it over to line those up. And again, instead of locations error, location restricted, and we'll just start over here. We'll say your location is restricted. This may be due to parental controls. Just again, let them know what's going on. So yep, we'll copy this, paste. Now this is location denied instead of restricted. And then alert item, right? Just change restricted to denied. And then say dub grub does not have permission to access your location. And then here's where you tell them what to do. To change that, go to your phone's settings. And then I just kind of like direct them to it with some arrows here. Dub grub, and then location. And if I pull up the simulator here, I'll kind of show you that in action. So let's go home, settings, scroll down to dub grub, right? Settings, dub grub, and then location, right? We have it set to ask. So that's what we're telling them in this message. And then we'll do something very, very similar, except it's a different path here to location, we'll say disabled. And that is going to say, again, location service disabled. And we'll change this first sentence to your phone's location services are disabled. And say to change that, go to your phone's settings, and then it's actually privacy. They don't go to settings and dub grub, they go to settings, privacy, and actually I think settings should be capitalized. And do that up here as well. And then it's actually location services, not just location. And again, pull up the simulator. I'll show you that too. So here we go, settings, right? Privacy, and then location services right there are on. So this is what I mean by if they turn this off, that turns location off phone-wide. So we got to check for that. So now that we have our 3 alerts, let's put them to use here. Back to our location map view model. So here we want to show an alert if it's disabled, right? Phone-wide. So again, alert item equals alert context dot location disabled. I'm just going to copy and paste this because we're going to basically use the same thing here. So if it's restricted, we want to show one, and if it's denied, we want to show one, except we want to show location restricted for that one, and then location denied for that one. So do Command B. Okay, cool. So we're checking our authorization. Let's review that real quick. First of all, let's make sure we have a location manager. It's not nil. If it's not determined, hey, let's ask for permission. If it's restricted, show them it's restricted. If it's denied, tell them we're denied, show them how to fix it. If we're good, hey, do nothing. Okay, so now we need to call this function. So one thing we can do is call it right here, check location authorization. And we are only going to use this in this view model, so we'll make it private. But we also want to do something, because what if they change permissions like outside of our app or elsewhere, and we need to check for that and know. Well, our CL location manager has a delegate that will listen for any time our location permission changes, and it will alert us, like saying, hey, they changed your location permissions, do what you got to do. So we are going to conform to that CL location manager delegate to listen for that. So here at the bottom, and again, I always do this for any of my delegate conformances. I create an extension for it. So location map view model, and that is going to conform to CL location manager delegate. And in order to do that, our location map view model has to be an NS object as well. So add that up there. But the reason I put it into an extension is purely for just code organization. You could easily conform to this delegate up here, like on this line, and then just have this function down here. But I like to, again, separate my delegate conformances into extensions just for compartmentalization and organization. So that way I know in this extension, nothing but my location manager delegates. And if you've ever built a table view in UIKit, there can be a lot of delegate methods. In this case, there's only going to be one. So maybe you don't have to organize it that much, but just a habit. So what we want to do, well, let me show you something. So you can do did update. So again, this is the power of the location manager delegate, the stuff that we're not going to use, but I still want to show you that it exists. So you can say did update heading, right? If they change from north to west or south, you can get an update on that. Did update locations. So this is how the map will move, with the user's location. So you can do stuff anytime the user updates their location. So you can see kind of the power of the CL location manager delegate, but we're going to use auth did change authorization. That's the one we want. So when they change their authorization status, wherever, we want to, again, check location authorization, which is what we do to basically handle it, right? If they changed it from restricted to not determined, okay, cool. If they changed it from denied to authorized always, like they went into their settings, now our app knows. We get a notification of that, and then we handle it appropriately. Now, the interesting thing about this delegate method, if we option click into it, you'll see the system calls this method when the app creates the object's SIA Location Manager instance. And when the app's authorization status changes. So this gets called as soon as we create a SIA Location Manager. Well, if you notice, we are doing that up here on line 22. So that makes this call redundant, because what happens is, as soon as we create this, it fires off this delegate method, which in turn we are calling that function. So we can go ahead and delete this here. Now we are just about done, except we need to call this function, check if location service is enabled. So what we're going to do is check for that every time we go to our map view, because again, the user can change this, they can minimize our app and change this whenever. So in our location map view, in the on up here, right above this, we can do view model dot check if location service is enabled. And I'll add a little space there to let that breathe. So now on up here, we're going to call this function, check if location service is enabled. If it's enabled device-wide, cool, we're going to create our location manager, and then on the creation of our location manager, it's going to fire off that delegate method, which then fires off check location authorization, which again, does what we need to do based on if we need to ask for permission, if it's restricted, denied, or if we're good to go. So that's the chain of events that's going to happen. Okay, so let's test this. And if you know it's not going to work, but I want to show you. So let's run this real quick, and we should get an error here. Okay, and let's minimize the simulator a little bit. Core Location Manager, okay, that is not the error I expected. I expected it to tell me that you tried to access private information without updating your plist. That's what I expected. So why didn't we get that error? Not quite sure. I have to laugh. I have to laugh. I haven't ran into this in a very, very long time. The reason I wasn't getting the error I expected, the classic mistake that you will make. I don't care if you're 10 years into your career, you're going to make this mistake. I forgot to set the delegate for the Core Location Manager delegate. So this wasn't firing off. That's why I wasn't getting the error I expected. Classic mistake, right? Setting up the delegate, but forgetting to set the delegate, right? I know there's a lot of you out there that have like, yep, done that a million times. So the reason why I wasn't getting the error I expected was because it wasn't firing off the delegate method of check location authorization. Because on my location manager here, device location manager, I need to set the delegate equal to self. So device location manager dot delegate equals self. And you notice that isn't optional because we made it. I'm going to force unwrap it. And here's why. Because we are setting it, we're giving it a value, the line right above it. So I know it's going to be there. And of course, someone could come in and change the code later. I understand the risks. But like I said before, I think unwrapping every single optional, no matter what, adds a lot of clutter to the code and confusion, and maybe to a fault, but I prioritize code readability and code usage. That's my highest priorities. So in cases like this, where we're literally giving it a value the line before, I am fine with that. It's okay to disagree. I know there's plenty of developers out there that say, unwrap every single optional 100% of the time, and that's a fine opinion. I don't agree with it. But anyway, moving on. So now I should get the plist error that I was expecting. We'll see, who knows? There we go. Hey. It's weird when you set the delegate, things actually work. So you can see the error here. This app attempted to access privacy-sensitive data without usage description. The app's info plist must contain, and it'll tell you the key with the string explaining how the app will use this data. So let's stop running, go to our plist, and then hit the plus button right here, and then just type privacy, or start typing privacy. I think it is case sensitive, yeah. Capital P, privacy. Weird that it's case sensitive. But anyway, now you can see all the different privacy stuff, right? If you're going to use the camera, if you're going to, access the contacts, right? All those privacy pop-ups you get, you have to set this for no matter what you're asking. So if we go down, you can see location. Again, we have always usage, always and when in usage, or just when in use. Since we're only asking for when in use, that's the one we're going to do. So hit return on that. And then here's where you type the string that you want your users to see. Grub uses your location to show you where you are in relation to your friends and food, right? You want to give them a good reason to say, yeah, go ahead and use my location. So hit return there to put that in there. And now when we run it, everything should work, right? We should see our location permission pop up when we run this. And all right, there you can see we're getting our pop-up. It shows where we are. You can see precise on or precise off. Well, if precise is off, we don't get that much detail. We can do precise on, and that shows you, puts us right at that corner I was talking about, right? So you can hit allow once, allow while using the app, don't allow. So if you hit allow once, this is gonna pop up again the next time they launch their app. If you hit allow while using the app, now we got permission. We don't need to show this every time. If we hit don't allow, now we get our error pop-up, right? Locations denied. DubDubGrub does not permission to access your location. To change that, go to your phone settings, DubDubGrub location, right? That's the error message we typed. Hit OK. So let's change that. If we go to hit the home button, go to settings, and again, DubDubGrub location is never, because we told them that. So now we'll say we can give permission, so we won't see the pop-up. But if we hit ask next time, now we're going to see the pop-up to give permission. So let's go back to DubDubGrub. Or I'm sorry, yeah, hit home, back to DubDubGrub, open it up, there we go. Now we got asked for permissions, hit allow once, cool, now we're good to go. Now you see the dot on that corner that I talked about. One last thing to wrap up the video, one little detail is that that is brand primary, right? Because that's our overall kind of accent color. It kind of blends in with everything else. I want that to be bright. So we're going to make that our brand secondary color, or the system pink color. So we'll stop that and go to location map view. And then on our map, right, we'll do it above ignore safe area. So you can do dot accent color, and we'll say dot, what do we call it? Grub red. Run it again. I can't remember if we always allowed permission or, I guess we'll find out. And we can just give it permission. Okay. We'll say allow while using the app. That way we always have it. Cool, and then now you see our location is red. Now it really stands out against the other color of the map pin. So that is getting location to show up on the map, and you got a little bonus lesson on always remember to set your delegate. Again, classic mistake. All right, on to the next video.